Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video, we're going to be counting down the top 10 Marvel Legends for 2018. Now, if you guys were around just a little while ago, I did the top 10 figures overall for 2018, so if you haven't seen that yet, you probably should go check it out. But for this video, we're going to look specifically at Hasbro's Marvel Legends. Now, this list will not include any of the movie figures. It just doesn't seem like a fair comparison to include those which seemingly have so much more money spent on them as compared to the standard releases. So we're only going to have the standard releases. And of course, this will not include Build Figures. Now, before we get started, there's one other thing I want from you guys, and that is to comment down below what you think are the 10 best Marvel Legends for the year, and also if you want me to do a top 10 worst Marvel Legends for 2018. I don't generally like doing those kind of videos, but if you guys want it, I will do it, so just let me know in the comment section below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with an honorable mention. For our honorable mention, we have Cable, which is a figure that almost made it very close to the very top of the list until I remembered and looked at the figure again and realized that his head is just way too big. And if you want more information on that, you can check out my review on this figure specifically. But it's a really solid release, but his head is just way too big and it kills the look of the figure overall. I shouldn't say kills, it hurts it. It doesn't kill it, it's still a good looking figure. But because his head is just so big, it throws it off enough that I just couldn't put it on the list. I'm tired of these big-headed Marvel Legends, so he's only an honorable mention, unfortunately. Coming in at number 10, we have the Black Knight figure. And while this guy does suffer from some issues from some parts on the figure, like the shoulders not working that well, it's a really sharp looking figure with a decent array of accessories, mainly in alternate heads, but it has a decent paint job, overall really nice aesthetic, and it's just a fun figure to have. Not every figure has to be absolutely perfect, of course, but they do have issues, we have to acknowledge that. However, for a list like this, I get to throw in a little bit more of my opinion, and I like Dark Knight, so it's going to make it on the list. And then coming in at number 9, we have the new release of Magic, which was an exclusive and is actually a repaint of another exclusive, but this one is even better because it's better executed in terms of the paint and overall finish, but it also has a whole bunch of accessories, and a bunch of accessories is always a good thing. So the figure does have a few issues here and there, but I think if you get this, you're not going to be disappointed. I think almost nobody would ever be disappointed in a figure like this at a $20 price point. So really solid release. Few issues holding it back from being higher on the list, but all the accessories do earn it a spot right here. In at number 8, we have Typhoid Mary. Now, this is another one that has a few issues which are worth mentioning, and I did in my review. However, it really stands out on the shelf. It's one of my favorite releases in the Marvel Legends line in general, mostly because they put that little bit of extra effort into the paint. You can see on the leg it looks really good, the face has a fantastic paint job, and then she also does have an accessory with an energy effect. It's just really a nice little bundle of a figure. It's not perfect by any means, but it stands out on the shelf and it's a lot of fun to have. For number 7, we are looking at Thanos, which I did say no Build-A-Figures, however, this is a standalone release of an earlier released Build-A-Figure, so it's not really fair, but it is fair at the same time, and it looks awesome, so I wanted to include it. It's one of the better looking Marvel Legends we've gotten in a long time, and it's a much needed update on the original Build-A-Figure. Alternate heads, alternate hands, an absolutely gorgeous color scheme. There's not a whole lot to want for this Thanos figure. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. And again, it's just a lot of fun to have, and for a $20 figure, that's a big factor. So this guy easily earns a spot on the list. Coming in at number 6, we have the Silver Surfer. Now, this guy did have kind of a few issues with the board, but all in all, it's a really fantastic figure. The posability on this guy is pretty great, and it pretty much picked the perfect body for Surfer as well. Not to mention the silver paint job they did is just about as good as you could possibly get on a $20 figure, and he's got a bunch of interchangeable hands and energy effects. There's not much more you could want from this guy other than a better board. And at number 5, we have Gwenpool, which the accessories win this one a spot for sure. It's not as good as I was hoping, and if I remember correctly when I originally reviewed it, I had a few more gripes than I was expecting to have. However, across the board, this is a pretty good example of what you should get in a Marvel Legends figure. It's loaded down with accessories. It doesn't have an incredible paint job, but it has a lot of paint on it still, and it's easy to pose. That's pretty much all you need for Marvel Legends. For number 4, we have the new Thing figure. A lot of Walgreens exclusives on this list. So Thing here is not an extremely impressive figure in that he's not that posable, but for a big bulky guy like this, he is still fairly posable. They did put a nice new sculpt on him, and the paint job supports that sculpt pretty well. The only real downside to this guy is that his fist hands are a little bit small, but otherwise it's just about the perfect Marvel Legends Thing figure. Coming in at number 3, we have Deathlok. This guy is a really nice release. It's easily arguable that he could be higher up on the list. I saved those 2 spots for figures that I personally like more, but you could easily interchange them. You have to split them up somehow. So on my list, this is how I did it. It's an absolutely fantastic release. Tons of paint, tons of sculpt, some accessories. There's really not much more you could want out of this guy. It's a really, really nice figure. Coming in at number 2, we have the new Wolverine figure. Now this guy would have easily made the top for me because 1, it's Wolverine and we haven't had a good figure yet. 2, it's executed really well. And 3, I just really, really wanted to put it at the top, but the claws are still pretty flaccid. They're not great claws, and then the head could easily be a lot better. It's not terrible. He still made number 2, obviously, so that's a pretty good ranking. But if the claws were better, and if the head was a little bit better, he'd be the best Marvel Legends of all time. Maybe, could be, but he's not. He's close, but he's not. And then lastly, coming in at number 1, should be no surprise if you saw my other top 10 list, Omega Red. Now this guy gets this number 1 spot simply because it's a different thing for Hasbro. They made a new body which actually has really good anatomy and articulation on it. They don't do that very often. So this guy is a good example, a good template for what they need to do moving forward. He's got the right comic look. He doesn't have giant feet. He doesn't have a giant head, though it is slightly big. He just has really nice overall proportions, really nice engineering for the butterfly joint, overall good sculpt, decent enough paint job. It's a really good example of what we should be getting out of Marvel Legends on a regular basis, though that's true for like the whole top 5 here, so you could kind of stretch that around. And like I said, many of these are interchangeable, but I had to organize them in some way, and this is the way I felt was the most accurate and most helpful for my viewers. Well, that'll do it, guys. That's all 10 figures plus 1 for the honorable mention for 2018. Of course, there are many figures which could very easily be substituted in for almost any of these places. So again, don't forget to let me know in the comment section below which you think are the 10 best for the year. And also let me know if you want to see a top 10 worst Marvel Legends for the year. And then lastly, of course, if you haven't seen the top 10 overall list for the year, make sure you go back and check that out. Pretty good figures on that list. And that'll do it, guys. We may have more top 10 lists for 2018. If you guys have any other ideas of things you'd like, let me know, I guess. But primarily, I'm interested in the top 10 worsts and your thoughts on that. So I do have a lot of other top 10 videos. If you guys want to check that out, I do have a playlist for that. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And if you're not subscribed, you may want to do it because we do have new videos up just about every single day. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.